it drill. I'm independent, I don't need no deal. I'm jaws on the beat, I got flow that kills. Do my ting with a few G's, Lauryn Hill.
Okay, so in this video, I'm just going to explain a technique that you'll see me use a lot, which is quite simply boost and sweep. And I just use it to help frequencies and things stand out so I can pick them out really easily, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant. So I've just got Pro Q up on the screen here. It's on a vocal bus for this track. And I'm just going to show you the technique. So I'm going to take this one here and we'll get rid of him. And what we'll do, we just click to add a point. And what we do here is we're just going to boost up a point on a bell EQ, and most of the time we're going to have quite a narrow spectrum like that, and we're just going to use the frequency control here and just scroll through and sweep through. So this is on the vocals, so we can solo out.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown.
What I'm doing, I'm just listening for bits that sound unpleasant or sound more pleasant or resonate.
You heard.
So for example, in here, there's a couple of phrases that pop out.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown.
So I'd just note that up here is probably going to need some corrective EQ.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown. Hearts are empty, but now I'm ready to. You heard me while I.
Now here, for example, this boost, there's a couple of frequencies this really helps bring out that actually enhance the vocal. So we'll just take note that in there, we could maybe do with a bit of a lift and some corrective EQ there to help the body of the vocal come up a bit more.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown. Hearts are empty, but now I'm ready to. You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown. Hearts are empty, but now I'm ready to. You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown. Hearts are empty, but now I'm ready to. You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time.
And just here, I can hear the tiniest bit of resonance. This vocal is actually really nicely recorded, but something like that would just maybe note that that's there, really narrow cue, and potentially cut it away. But we're just listening for things that really stick out and stand out. The other thing is the low end. So we'll tend to go with a bit of a wider cue there. On Pro Q, I like using it because I can just click here and roll my finger. Same with actually with the Logic channel EQ. And I want to hear if anything in the low end is doing anything useful.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time.
And here we can hear, even though we're boosting it, we're not getting any benefit to the vocal. There's nothing really of use down here.
You heard me while.
Nothing really useful until the fundamentals around here.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time.
So a really great exercise for you is to find an element in your track that you're currently working on and use the EQ, whether it's a channel EQ, Pro Q, whatever you have access to, and simply do this. Make sure you turn the analyzer off as part of the exercise. So we just switch it off entirely here, give it a boost, fairly narrow, and just have a sweep through and try and listen for any areas that are standing out.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown.
Try it with a wider and narrow cue as well.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time.
A wider cue can really help you find out places that will benefit from a boost later.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown. Hearts are empty, but now I'm ready to. You heard me while I I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown. Hearts are.
So very roughly, we'll probably end up with something like that.
You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown. Hearts are. You heard me while I gave you plenty of love and time, but I started to drown.
Yeah, and that's definitely helped. So that's just that boost and sweep technique that I use to help find areas that are causing problems, could benefit from attention and boosts as well. And yeah, just sweep through sounds, have a listen, and great to turn the analyzer off so you can't see those peaks and just do it with your ears. It's a really good exercise. So I'd like you to try that before moving on to the next section.